There. Now that I've got my shock on, it's given me two things. It assures me that this spring isn't going to go flying out anywhere because the shock is now holding it. And this shock is still good. Strutmasters.com does sell replacement shocks, but there's a quick, easy way to tell if your shocks are good or bad. If it's dry on the top here like this one is, that means that no oil is leaking out of the shock. That's really important because these shocks, some of them have nitrogen in them and oil. It's a combination of. These shocks, that's what they probably have in them. They're really stiff. When you push it up, it extends out. That's the sign of a good shock absorber. There's no oil coming out of the top. That means that the seal is still good. Now, because of that, I'm just going to leave these shocks in there. If you're not sure about it, all you got to do is order new shocks with the kit. They're replacement shocks, and they're calibrated and built for these cars. So it's a specific application, as it were. So let's get this link bar back in. Voila, she is done. Now, next step, just get a torque wrench and tighten these bad boys up. If you're not sure how much to tighten them up, just get them as tight as you can get them and go straight to a shop and ask them to tighten your lugs. It's real easy, 9 out of 10 times. You may have to toss the guy a 5-spot, but he'll be more than happy to do it. You know, it's just one of those things. They'll just hit it with the impact and they'll be done. But don't forget, you also have to get your car aligned after we do the front end. So if you just take it to get aligned, you just tell the guy, look, can you check all the lugs? And he'll be happy to do it. All right, let's move on to the front. Ta-da! Now, it's time to go to the top. But before I go to the top and take the 3 bolts out of it, this is something that's really important. You have to take off the upper control arm. You have to disconnect it. And it's kind of weird because it's not your typical ball joint. It's just a straight shaft with a groove cutting it. So the bolt will actually fit inside that groove, and that's what keeps it from moving around. So in order to get it out, that's why I had to chisel. You've got to spread this because it's a press fitting. When you spread it, it relieves the pressure and it drops right out. The big thing is you got to take out the bolt because you're not going to be able to spread it far enough if you leave the bolt in. And this is ready to go. Now let's go up to the top. Now, love tap. Bolt back in. Another little love tap. Now, ran into a slight problem. It's not a big deal. When I took this lower mount out, what it was the bolt came in from this side, from front to back. And it was a bit of a pain to get out because I didn't want to undo the upper control arm. So when I put it back together, I put the bolt in from the back to the front. It'll work, don't get me wrong, it'll work. But the reason why they did that, I'm sure, is because you can't get a socket in that side. I personally think it's easier to have it come in from back to front. That way you have room. You're not wrestling with the rest of the suspension parts. But I would venture a guess and say that that's why it was done the way it was done. All right. Voila. She is done. Oh, yeah. All right, guys, there you have it. I got one side done. Took me about an hour and a half. I took my time, didn't rush, didn't feel like killing myself. It's hot in here today. But something that I really want to show you guys. This is the shock that Strutmasters.com sells. The difference between the shock that they sell and the shock that they have from the factory is this mounting pad right here. The one from the factory is aluminum, and we all know aluminum is a softer metal, so it wears out. This one is steel, it takes longer to wear out. But they have the direct replacement for that. About 120 bucks extra, you can get cheap insurance. Because, think about it, if those shocks were bad, or even if you think they're bad, replace them, because in 6 to 8 months you're going to be back in there again, taking out all that work that you did to put in a new set of shocks. So it's cheap insurance. I'm going to get to the other side after lunch. You guys have a good time. Go out, do what you got to do.